The first thing I noticed when I opened my front door was the echo. You know that hollow sound that bounces off empty walls? That shouldn't have been possible in my carefully decorated home. My name is Michelle, and I had just returned from what was supposed to be the perfect honeymoon in Jamaica with my husband Malachi. 2 weeks of sun, sand, and newlywed bliss. Now I stood frozen in my doorway, carry-on bag slipping from my shoulder, staring into what looked like a model home waiting for furniture staging. Malachi? My voice bounced off bare walls. No answer. I stepped inside, my heels clicking against hardwood floors that had been covered by my grandmother's Persian rugs just 2 weeks ago. The living room was empty. Not just missing furniture, everything was gone. The art pieces my grandmother had collected over decades, the vintage record player, even the potted plants. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. 3 missed calls from Ruby, my best friend since middle school, and an email notification from her. I opened it, expecting concern, maybe news about a break-in. We bought a villa in Tuscany, living our best life. Love R&M. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering on the bare floor. R&M, Ruby, and Malachi. Ma'am? A voice startled me. A police officer stood in my doorway. My neighbors must have called them. I'm Officer Martinez. Everything okay here? I just got home from my honeymoon. Everything's gone. He walked through the house, checking windows and doors. No signs of forced entry. Was anyone else authorized to access your home while you were away? My husband, I whispered, and my best friend Ruby. She had a key to water the plants. The officer's expression shifted to something between pity and discomfort. Ma'am, if they had legal access to the property, this becomes a civil matter. I nodded numbly, following him through my empty house. The kitchen cabinets gaped open, cleaned out except for a few chipped mugs. My grandmother's silver was gone. The safe in the master bedroom stood open and bare. The inheritance, I breathed, rushing to my home office. My laptop was gone, but I grabbed my tablet from my carry-on, logging into my bank account with shaking fingers. The balance that had once shown my grandmother Elena's generous inheritance now displayed a number that made my stomach lurch. 8 and a 42, or 13. Would you like to file a report? Officer Martinez asked gently. Before I could answer, my tablet pinged with another email from Ruby. BTW sold that ugly old clock your grandma left you. You never liked it anyway. Ciao, Bella. The antique grandfather clock. The one my grandmother had restored herself. The one she'd told me contained secrets for a rainy day. I'd never even looked inside it properly. Yes, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I want to file a report. After the officer left, I sat on the floor of my empty bedroom, letting the reality sink in. My new husband and my best friend had robbed me blind and run off together. The inheritance my grandmother had left me, gone. The family heirlooms, sold. I was about to call my Aunt Sonia when I noticed something under the baseboards where my dresser had been. A crumpled receipt from Valley Storage Solutions, dated 3 days before my wedding. I smoothed it out, reading the unit number and address. My phone buzzed with a text from Ruby. Don't bother looking for us. By the time you read this, we'll be living our best life in our gorgeous villa. Sorry, not sorry. I looked at the storage receipt again, then at Ruby's text. They thought they'd planned everything perfectly. They thought they'd left me with nothing. But my grandmother Elena had always told me, Mija, the biggest mistake people make is thinking they're smarter than everyone else. I stood up, receipt clutched in my hand. They'd made their first mistake, and I was going to make them regret every single one that followed. You're telling me they cleared out your entire house? My cousin Sadie's voice crackled through my car's speakers as I pulled into Valley Storage Solutions. The whole inheritance? Everything except my grandmother's chipped mugs, I said, parking near Unit 247. But they made a mistake leaving this receipt. Give me 20 minutes. I'll hack into their security feed. Sadie, you can't just... Already done. Their system security is a joke. I'm sending you footage from the past month. I smiled despite everything. Sadie had always been the family's tech wizard, and right now I needed every advantage I could get. The storage facility manager looked up as I walked in. Can I help you? I placed the receipt on his counter. My husband rented this unit. I need access. Name? Michelle Steele. The new last name felt like ash in my mouth. He typed something into his computer. I'm sorry, but that unit's registered to a Ruby Taylor. Of course it was. She's my best friend. We share the unit. Without your name on the rental agreement, I can't. My phone buzzed. A text from Sadie. Sending you something interesting. I opened the video file and turned my phone toward the manager. Is this what happened 3 days before my wedding? The footage showed Malachi directing movers, Ruby beside him. They were loading my furniture, my art, my life into this storage unit. The timestamp matched the receipt perfectly. The manager's expression changed. I remember this. They said they were helping a friend move. He hesitated. The police will need a warrant to. I'm not calling the police, yet. I pulled out my driver's license, but I am going to need access to that unit. 10 minutes later, I stood before a roll-up door that potentially held what remained of my grandmother's legacy. The manager lifted it, and there it was. My life, packed away like seasonal decorations. My phone rang. Michelle, it's Aunt Sonia. I hadn't spoken to my father's sister since grandmother Elena's funeral. Sonia, I just got a call from the bank. Someone tried to transfer the remaining trust funds to an account in Italy. Her voice was sharp. What's going on? Can you meet me? There's something in grandmother's will you need to see. An hour later, I sat across from Sonia in her law office, surrounded by Elena's estate documents. Your grandmother wasn't just wealthy, Sonia said, pulling out a thick folder. She was brilliant. Look at this clause. I read the highlighted section. In the event of suspected fraud or theft related to this inheritance, a forensic audit will be triggered automatically, freezing all assets until investigation completion. Grandmother added this 3 days before she died, Sonia said. She told me, that charming man isn't what he seems. She looked at me. She meant Malachi. My hands clenched. She knew. Elena had seen too many charming men in her time. She built safeguards into your inheritance. Sonia pulled out another document. The audit's already started. Every transaction, every transfer, they'll trace it all. My phone pinged with another message from Sadie. Found something weird. Ruby bought the villa under her name only. Malachi's not on the deed. I showed Sonia the message. She smiled grimly. Your grandmother used to say, the smartest trap is the one they walk into themselves. I looked at the estate documents, then at the storage unit receipt. I need your help, Sonia. Not just with the legal stuff. I need to understand everything grandmother put in place. Why? Because this isn't just about getting my inheritance back. I met her eyes. This is about making sure they never do this to anyone else. Sonia studied me for a moment, then nodded. Elena would be proud. She always said you had her spirit. She reached for her phone. I'm calling Jarrett Perkins. He's the best forensic investigator I know. As she dialed, I looked at the photo of my grandmother on Sonia's desk. Elena Ray had built an empire from nothing, and she'd known exactly what kind of people might try to steal it. Now it was my turn to prove I was her granddaughter. I still remember the day I met Ruby. We were 13, and she was the new girl wearing secondhand clothes and a fierce expression. When some girls made fun of her worn-out shoes, I gave them my deadliest glare and invited Ruby to sit with me at lunch. I don't need your pity, she'd said. Good, because I need help with math, I'd replied. You look smart. That was 19 years ago. Now I sat in Jarrett Perkins' office, staring at photos of Ruby and Malachi splashed across his computer screen. They were lounging by a pool, her head on his shoulder, both wearing expensive sunglasses I'd probably paid for. These were posted yesterday, Jarrett said, scrolling through more images. The villa's in Tuscany's Chianti region, worth about 3 million euros. When did they start planning this? I asked, more to myself than him. Your friend's been making regular transfers to a separate account for the past year, he replied. Small amounts at first, then larger ones closer to your wedding. My mind flashed to all the times Ruby had borrowed my laptop, claiming hers was acting up. To the day she'd helped me set up my new phone, insisting on handling all the banking app installations herself. Show me everything, I said. The evidence mounted like a tsunami. Ruby using my devices, Ruby accessing my accounts, Ruby slowly gaining control over my digital life while playing the role of supportive best friend. Remember when I was broke in grad school? Ruby's voice echoed from the past. You saved my life, Michelle. I'll never forget that. I'd paid her tuition, helped her get her first real job, introduced her to my business contacts. When she couldn't afford rent, I'd let her live in my spare room for 6 months. You're like the sister I never had, she'd told me at my wedding, tears in her eyes. Now I wondered if she'd been crying from laughter instead. My phone buzzed. A new Instagram post from Ruby. A sunset photo of her and Malachi kissing on their villa's terrace. Caption, "Living our truth." Michelle? Jarrett's voice pulled me back. There's more. Look at these transfers. He showed me a series of transactions labeled as wedding gifts. Large sums moved just days before the ceremony. They used your wedding as cover, he explained. People expect large transfers around weddings, less likely to raise red flags. Can we prove it was fraud? Better. He pulled up a document. We can prove Ruby forged your digital signature. See these timestamps? She accessed your accounts while you were on your honeymoon. The IP addresses match her phone. I leaned back, remembering all the times Ruby had commented on my relationship with Malachi. He's so perfect for you, she'd gushed. Don't let him get away. She'd encouraged me to date him, pushed me to move faster, suggested the short engagement, all while sleeping with him behind my back. There's something else, Jarrett said, pulling up more documents. Your husband was nearly bankrupt before he met you. Multiple failed startups, massive debt. Your inheritance wasn't just a target, it was his salvation. The pieces clicked into place. Ruby had known about my inheritance. She'd known Malachi was desperate. She'd played matchmaker not out of love, but calculation. My phone pinged again. A message from Sadie. Found something weird in Ruby's social media. She's been tagging a real estate agent in Tuscany for months, someone named Gianna. Jarrett, I said, straightening up, how quickly can you get in touch with Italian authorities? He smiled. Already working on it. Your Aunt Sonia's contacts at the International Fraud Division are very interested in this case. I looked at Ruby's Instagram post again. They thought they were untouchable in their stolen villa, sipping wine bought with my money, laughing at how cleverly they'd played me. You know what my grandmother used to say about betrayal? I asked Jarrett. She said it's like a boomerang. It always comes back around. I stood up, my mind clear for the first time since opening that empty front door. Let's make sure this one hits hard. Jarrett nodded, already reaching for his phone. Time to turn their paradise into a prison? Time to show them why my grandmother left everything to me, I replied, and nothing to anyone else. Identity theft, wire fraud, forgery, and international money laundering, Jarrett listed off, spreading documents across his conference room table. We've got enough to bury them both. I studied the papers before me like a general planning a war. Walk me through it. First, he pointed to a bank statement. We've documented every fraudulent transfer. Ruby wasn't as clever as she thought. She used your devices, but her unique login patterns are traceable. Sadie, who joined us for this strategy session, spun her laptop around. Look at this. Every time Ruby accessed your accounts, she was simultaneously logged into her personal Instagram. Amateur move. What about Malachi? I asked. That's where it gets interesting. Jarrett pulled out another file. We did a deep dive into his financial history. Your husband has been running a sophisticated Ponzi scheme through his tech startups for years. The SEC was already watching him. My phone buzzed. Another Instagram post from Ruby. When you find your soulmate, nothing else matters. Oh, something's about to matter, Sadie muttered, typing furiously. I've got access to their villa's security system. Want to see what your soulmates are up to? I waved her off. Focus on the evidence. We need this to be perfect. Already done, Jarrett said. I've filed reports with the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, Interpol, and Italian authorities. The forensic audit triggered by your grandmother's will clause has frozen most of their assets. Most? They're still accessing some accounts we haven't traced yet, but they're burning through cash fast. That villa isn't cheap to maintain. Sonia walked in, carrying a thick folder. I just got off the phone with our Italian counsel. The villa purchase raises multiple red flags. Ruby used forged documents to secure the mortgage. Classic Ruby, I said, always taking shortcuts. There's more, Sonia continued. Malachi's name isn't on any of the property documents. It's all in Ruby's name. I laughed. He doesn't know, does he? Not according to these messages. Sadie turned her screen toward me. She'd accessed their WhatsApp chat history. Ruby and Malachi arguing about money, about whose name should be on what. Your grandmother would love this, Sonia said. The thieves are already turning on each other. My phone rang. a number I didn't recognize. I put it on speaker. Michelle? Ruby's voice slightly panicked. Please, we need to talk. The bank's asking weird questions. I hung up. They're getting nervous, Jared observed. Good, nervous people make mistakes. What's our next move? I asked. We let the legal machinery work, Sonia said. The forensic audit will reveal every transaction. The authorities will freeze more accounts. The pressure will build. Meanwhile, Sadie added, I'll keep tracking their digital footprint. Every email, every message, every panicked Google search about international extradition treaties. I stood up and walked to the window. Somewhere in Tuscany, my husband and best friend were living in a villa bought with my money, thinking they'd pulled off the perfect crime. They had no idea what was coming. Michelle? Jarrett's voice was gentle. There's something else you should see. He handed me a document. Malachi's bank records from before our marriage. Multiple loans, failed investments, desperate attempts to stay afloat. He was going under, Jarrett explained. Then suddenly he meets you, a successful woman with a wealthy grandmother. And Ruby helped him target me, I finished. The perfect setup. The perfect setup that's about to blow up in their faces, Sadie corrected. Oh, look, Ruby just tried to transfer more money. Denied. Their faces must be priceless right now. My phone buzzed again. A text from Malachi this time. Baby, there's been a huge misunderstanding. Please call me. I showed it to the room. Sonia smiled. Your grandmother always said, when a liar's lips move, it's because they're scared. I deleted the message without responding. Let them panic. Let them wonder. Let them feel what it's like to have everything slip through their fingers. Okay, I said, turning back to the table full of evidence. Let's make sure every single document is perfect. Every charge, every violation, every stolen penny. Because when karma finally knocked on their villa door, I wanted it to have an airtight case in hand. Found her. Sadie burst into Sonia's office, laptop in hand. The real estate agent, Gianna. She's been posting about her dream clients for weeks. I looked up from the stack of legal documents I'd been reviewing. Show me. Gianna's Instagram was full of perfectly staged photos of Tuscan villas, including one that made my blood boil, Ruby and Malachi posing in front of their stolen paradise. Look at the comments, Sadie pointed. Ruby's been talking to her for months. Gianna has no idea the money's stolen. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number listed in Gianna's bio. 3 rings later, a cheerful voice answered. Gianna Wallace speaking. Hi, Gianna. I'm calling about the Villa Rosewood property, the one you recently sold to Ruby Taylor. Oh, yes. Beautiful property. Are you interested in something similar? Actually, I'm Michelle. Ruby's friend? She mentioned me during the sale? Michelle. Yes, of course. Gianna's voice brightened. Ruby spoke about you often. She said you inspired the purchase. Something about helping her invest her inheritance wisely? My knuckles went white around the phone. Did she mention where the money came from? She said it was a family inheritance. Her grandmother, I believe? I caught Sadie's eye. She was already typing, documenting everything. That's interesting, I said carefully, because Ruby never had a grandmother with money. I should know. I paid her graduate school tuition when she was broke. Silence on the line. In fact, I continued, that money she used, it was my inheritance, from my grandmother, which she stole. Oh my God, Gianna's voice dropped to a whisper. The authorities were just here asking questions about the purchase. I imagine they were. Listen, Gianna, I'm going to have my lawyer contact you. We need your help documenting exactly how this sale happened. Of course, anything. She paused. Michelle, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. After hanging up, I turned to Sadie. Send everything to Jarrett. Already done. And look what just popped up. She turned her laptop to show me a notification. The Italian police have frozen the villa's utilities. No more hot water or electricity for the happy couple. My phone buzzed. Ruby again. Michelle, please. They're saying something about fraud charges. This is all a misunderstanding. I showed the message to Sonia, who'd been quietly working at her desk. Should I respond? Not yet. She stood up, pulling out another document. First, look at this. The forensic audit found something interesting in your grandmother's personal papers. The document was old, yellowed at the edges. A newspaper clipping about a fraud case from 30 years ago. The victim? Elena Ray, my grandmother. She lost everything once, Sonia explained, to a man just like Malachi. That's why she built all these protections into your inheritance. She knew exactly what kind of vultures circle around money. My phone rang again, Jarrett this time. Michelle, turn on the news. Any Italian channel? Sadie was already streaming it on her laptop. There, in crisp digital clarity, was my stolen villa. Police cars lined the driveway. The headline scrolled across the bottom. International Fraud Investigation. American couple faces charges. They're about to freeze the property, Jarrett said. Ruby and Malachi will be served with papers within the hour. Can we watch? I asked. Better. Sadie pulled up the villa's security feed. Front row seats. We watched as police approached the door. Ruby answered in a silk robe, probably bought with my money. Her face shifted from annoyed to terrified as they handed her documents. Behind her, Malachi appeared, already yelling into his phone. The best part? Jarrett's voice held a hint of satisfaction. They can't leave the country. Their passports have been flagged. Another text from Ruby flashed on my phone. Please, you don't understand. Malachi made me do it. I can explain everything. And there it is, Sonia said softly. They always turn on each other in the end. I watched the security feed as Ruby and Malachi began arguing, gesturing wildly at the police papers. My so-called husband and my former best friend, trapped in their stolen paradise, turned prison. Grandmother would have loved this, I said, finally allowing myself a small smile. She always said revenge is a dish best served with legal documentation. Speaking of documentation, Jarrett added, wait until they realize the villa's deed is only in Ruby's name. Malachi's about to discover he doesn't own a thing. I sat back, watching karma unfold in real time. Let's see how much they love each other when there's nothing left to steal. The storage unit door rolled up with a metallic groan. Everything they hadn't managed to sell was still here, covered in dust. My grandmother's antique mirror, photo albums, the grandfather clock that supposedly held secrets. Want company? Sadie asked from behind me. No, I need to do this alone. The clock stood in the corner, its face dark and silent. I remembered grandmother Elena telling me about it years ago. This clock has been in our family for 3 generations, mija. Sometimes the most valuable things aren't what they seem. I opened the clock's cabinet, expecting emptiness. Instead, I found a sealed envelope with my name on it and a small leather-bound book. My phone buzzed. Ruby again. They're saying I could face jail time. Please, Michelle, I'm scared. I ignored it and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in my grandmother's elegant handwriting. My dearest Michelle, if you're reading this, someone has betrayed you. Probably someone charming. Someone you trusted. I know because the same thing happened to me. The book contains records of every person who ever tried to steal from our family. Names, dates, consequences. Add to it as needed. Some people only learn when their names become cautionary tales. Remember, patience is our family's greatest weapon. Love, Elena. I opened the book. Pages of neat handwriting documented decades of attempted theft and fraud against my grandmother. The last entry was about my grandfather, a charming con man who'd tried to steal her company 30 years ago. My phone lit up with a news alert. International fraud investigation expands. Multiple victims come forward. I clicked the link. Other women had stepped forward, claiming Malachi had attempted similar schemes before. He had a pattern: find successful women, charm them, then vanish with their money. But he never succeeded until he met me, I whispered to the empty unit, because he never had Ruby's help before. I pulled out my laptop and began typing. Dear Ruby, by now you've realized several things. 1. The villa is in your name only. Malachi convinced you to do that, didn't he? To protect the investment? 2. Every fraudulent transfer was made through your accounts using your devices. 3. The police have probably shown you Malachi's history with other women. You thought you were special, the mastermind, his true love. But you were just another Mark, Ruby. He played you just like he played me. The difference is, you chose this. Remember when I paid your tuition? When I let you live with me rent-free? When I introduced you to every valuable contact I had? I've attached police reports, bank records, and evidence of every theft you committed. I'm sending copies to everyone we know. You didn't just steal my money. You tried to steal my life. Enjoy the villa while you can. I hear Italian prisons have a lovely view. Michelle P.S. My grandmother says hello. I scheduled the email to send in 1 hour, then turned back to the storage unit. One by one, I began reclaiming my belongings. Each piece held memories, not just of what was stolen, but of who I was before the betrayal. My phone rang. Jarrett, you need to see this, he said. Ruby just tried to transfer everything into her personal accounts. Malachi caught her. They're having a very public meltdown on the villa's terrace. Send me the feed. There they were, my husband and best friend, screaming at each other in paradise. Ruby throwing accusations, Malachi throwing a wine glass, both of them finally showing their true faces. I picked up my grandmother's book and made my first entry. Ruby Taylor and Malachi Steele. Crime, theft, fraud, betrayal. Consequence, pending. Another news alert flashed. Interpol issues international arrest warrants. I smiled, adding to my entry, consequence, justice. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Malachi. Baby, I can explain everything. Ruby tricked me. Please, I still love you. I looked at my grandmother's letter, then at the news alerts, then at the security feed of their crumbling paradise. Sorry, I whispered, deleting his message. I'm too busy writing your ending. They're going in now, Jarrett said through my earpiece. I watched the live feed from my office, where multiple screens showed different angles of the villa raid. Italian police moved with precision, surrounding the property as dawn broke over the Tuscan hills. Jarrett was there with them, along with a legal videographer documenting everything. Ruby's in the pool house, Sadie reported, monitoring the security feeds. Malachi's in the main bedroom. They haven't slept in the same room for days. The first knock came at 6:42 a.m. local time. I watched Ruby answer the door in an expensive silk robe, probably bought with my money. Her face dropped as officers showed their badges. Miss Taylor, a police captain said in accented English, "We have a warrant for your arrest." Through another camera, I saw Malachi emerging from the bedroom, phone pressed to his ear. My lawyers will destroy you. Do you know who I am? They're about to find out, Sonia murmured beside me. The police methodically moved through the villa, documenting everything. My stolen artwork, my grandmother's antiques, even my wedding china still in its original boxes. Michelle? Jarrett's voice came through. Ruby's asking to speak with you. No. She's saying she can explain everything. I watched as Ruby was handcuffed, mascara running down her face. Please, there's been a mistake. Call Michelle. She's my best friend. Former best friend, I whispered. Malachi was more dramatic, trying to run. He made it 3 steps before officers caught him. This is ridiculous. That money was a gift. Ruby, tell them. But Ruby was already talking to the police, words tumbling out between sobs. It was all his idea. He made me do it. I have proof. My phone buzzed with a notification. Ruby had posted on Instagram, "The truth about Malachi, a warning to all women." Attached were screenshots of their private conversations, dating back months before my wedding. She's throwing him under the bus, Sadie said, almost admiringly. Look at these messages. He was planning this from the start. I read through their exchanges. Malachi coaching Ruby on how to access my accounts. Ruby suggesting they wait until after the wedding. Both of them laughing about how trusting I was. Incoming call from the villa, Sadie announced. Ruby's voice filled the room. Michelle, please. I saved all the messages. I'll tell them everything. I'll help you get your money back. Just please, don't let them take me to jail. I ended the call without speaking. They're searching their phones now, Jarrett reported, finding lots of interesting conversations with other potential targets. Looks like you weren't going to be their last victim. On screen, Malachi was being led to a police car. This is all Ruby's fault. Check the property records. It's all in her name. He just figured that out? Sonia laughed. Your grandmother would be proud, Michelle. You let them destroy themselves. I watched as officers cataloged evidence, took photographs, placed seals on doors. The villa that was supposed to be their paradise was now a crime scene. Wait, Sadie said suddenly. Look at this. She pulled up a document on her screen. Bank records showing additional accounts we hadn't found before. Malachi had been siphoning money from Ruby's accounts too. He was playing her the whole time, I realized, just like she helped him play me. My phone lit up with a final message from Ruby. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I saved everything. All the proof you need is in my phone. I'm so sorry, Michelle. You were right about him. About everything. What do you want to do? Sonia asked quietly. I watched the police cars pull away from the villa, carrying my former husband and ex-best friend to face justice. Their paradise lost, their betrayal exposed, their trust in each other shattered. Nothing, I said, turning off the feeds. They've done everything for me. The Italian prosecutor wants to know if you'll testify, Jarrett said through the earpiece. I thought about my grandmother's book of cautionary tales, waiting for its newest entry. No, I replied. I don't need to say anything. Their actions speak for themselves. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a news alert. International fraud ring exposed. Socialite and tech entrepreneur face decades in prison. I smiled. Sometimes karma doesn't need your help. It just needs an audience. The prison visitor's request sat unopened in my inbox. Malachi wanted to talk, to explain, to apologize maybe. I deleted it without reading further. Are you sure? Sadie asked, perched on the edge of my desk. Aren't you curious what he has to say? Not even a little. I was busy reviewing documents for the Elena Ray Foundation, my grandmother's legacy reimagined. Besides, I have better things to do. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Socialite Ruby Taylor accepts plea deal. Will testify against ex-partner. The attached photo showed Ruby entering the courthouse. Designer clothes replaced by a modest suit. False confidence replaced by genuine fear. She got 15 years, Sonia announced, walking into my office. Malachi's looking at 25, minimum. The prosecutor says they've never seen such a clear paper trail. I smiled, remembering my grandmother's words about patience being our family's greatest weapon. Any word on the villa? Being sold at auction. The proceeds will go to restitution. Sonia paused. Speaking of which, have you seen today's applications? I pulled up the foundation's website. Dozens of women had applied for our legal aid program, all victims of financial fraud and romantic scams. Some had lost everything. Some were still fighting. All needed help. Your grandmother would love this, Sonia said softly. Using their stolen paradise to help other victims. Pure poetry. My phone lit up with another message, from Ruby's mother this time. I'd helped put her daughter through college, treated her like family. Now she was apologizing for raising a thief. Don't, I typed back. Your daughter made her choices, but the foundation can help with those legal bills if you need it. Sadie whistled, reading over my shoulder. Mercy from the Queen of Karma? That's new. Not mercy, I corrected. Justice. Ruby's mom didn't steal from me. Neither did these women applying for help. A notification popped up on my laptop. Another article about the case. This one featured interviews with Malachi's previous victims. Women who'd been too ashamed to come forward before. Women who were finding their voices now. The foundation approved 10 new cases this morning, Sonia reported, all getting full legal support. 2 have already recovered significant assets. I opened my grandmother's book of cautionary tales, adding the final details to my entry about Ruby and Malachi. Their story wasn't just about theft anymore. It was about consequences, about karma's perfect aim. Michelle? Jared appeared in my doorway. The Italian authorities finished processing the villa's contents. They found something you might want to see. He handed me a small box. Inside was my grandmother's rosary, the one I thought had been sold. Attached was a note in Ruby's handwriting. Couldn't sell it. Some things should stay in the family. One decent act doesn't erase a betrayal, I said, closing the box. No, Sonia agreed. But it proves your grandmother right. Everyone has a choice. Ruby and Malachi chose greed. You chose justice. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from an unknown number. They're saying I'll die in prison. Please, Michelle, help me. M. I showed the message to Sadie, who traced it immediately. Malachi borrowed another inmate's phone privileges. Want me to block it? No need. I typed a response, my first and last words to the man who thought he could steal my life. Some people steal villas. Some people inherit kingdoms of patience. Guess which lasts longer? Goodbye, Malachi. I turned back to the foundation applications. Women fighting to reclaim their lives, their dignity, their power. Women who needed what my grandmother had given me. Protection, wisdom, and the strength to turn betrayal into justice. Ready for the next case? Sonia asked, holding up a file. I touched my grandmother's rosary, thinking of all the lessons she'd woven into my inheritance, the safeguards she'd built, the wisdom she'd passed down. Always, I replied. After all, karma needs good lawyers too. Behind me, the grandfather clock from the storage unit chimed softly in its new home, keeping time, keeping secrets, keeping my grandmother's legacy alive in ways Ruby and Malachi never understood. Some people steal fortunes, others build legacies. I chose to do both, taking back what was stolen and using it to protect others from the same fate. That's the thing about karma. It doesn't just come back around, it comes back stronger.